for the health of it this morning. I am Dr. Scott Phillips, your host, local owner of Lifestyle Chiropractic and Wellness Center in the Clock Tower building, and I'm excited to be here this morning. I had the idea for today's show just while I was out. I was gone last week. I know many of you were very saddened and wondering what they could do when we weren't on last week. But I promise I won't miss too many of them. I was out visiting my parents in Florida, which is really just a good excuse to go to Florida. So we're really glad they live out there, because then we can say we're going to Florida, but of course just to visit them. Anyway, so we're going to have a fun show today. Hope everyone's having a great Thursday morning. It was a little chillier this morning again. I know it's getting colder, and we're not going to say that dreaded W word, winter, but it may come someday. So anyway, the first thing I wanted to talk about is of course kind of the somberness that is today. Hopefully everyone knows and has remembered 9/11 that happened a few years ago now, and it's definitely a good day for us to kind of reflect on those heroes that we lost, those heroes that stepped up, and I guess I just wanted to give my perspective on it, if you'll indulge me for a few minutes, only because I had lived in a foreign country for about a year and a half. I was in Poland for my LDS mission service, and I had gone out there in January of 2000. So by 2001, I'd been there about almost 2 years even, and it was just kind of a different perspective. I know most of you listening probably were here in the States when it happened, and so it was early morning, as I remember, because it was evening time for me. And we were actually at a meeting at the church, and a few of the members came in fairly panicking, wondering what was going on, and talking very quickly, and so we just kind of had them slow down and say, hey, what's going on? And sure enough, they said, oh, America's been attacked, and we didn't really know what that meant. And when I got back to my apartment, I had a big, long fax, because we had fax machines for some reason. Had a big, long fax about everything that had been going on, and missionaries that I needed to call. And it was a very strange experience because, again, it wasn't there, and so I didn't really feel 100% like I knew what was going on. And so it really wasn't until the next day that we were walking the streets, and there was some shop that had TVs in it. You know how people selling TVs, they play things over and over on a bunch of different screens. And I remember looking over and seeing what had happened the morning before, and watching it for the first time. And I guess that's the thing that I take as far as what I remember from that day, is watching that video for the first time really deeply did affect me. I felt like I was watching a video game at first, or a movie or something that just didn't look real. But I'll tell you, the biggest take home from my experience over there, like I say, then I wasn't here for the after, when everyone kind of, I heard that patriotism abounded, and that everyone got together, and that we were all kind of united as Americans for a little while, and I think that's fantastic. That was something that I didn't really get to experience. But what I'll tell you is the outpouring of support, and I don't know what else to call it, from people that I barely knew. I mean, obviously many of my friends in Poland called me, and they said, hey, how's your family? They weren't very close. They were just asking. But I will tell you that random strangers that I might maybe talk to one time that had my phone number called and asked about it. And people that I talked to in the streets or just barely meet, that was almost the first thing that they asked. They said, I'm so sorry about what happened. Tell me that no one that you knew of was affected. And I'll tell you, that went on for a few months, that I would just get these random phone calls, and big billboards went up in the streets that said that Poland was with America, and so I guess that's my thought for you this morning as far as that situation goes. Is it was not something that just united us as a country, but it definitely had a worldwide impact, and the compassion and the feeling that I was able to hear from these people that some of them, like I say, I'd only had just a brief conversation with, was really quite neat. And so I had a different experience than many of you, I'm sure. But hopefully you kind of remember today those people that we lost, and those people that became heroes, and definitely a history-changing event that will not soon be forgotten, even here it is, I guess, 13 years later. So that's kind of the beginning of the day, and hopefully you guys have a good time remembering those things, and maybe even observe some reverence and remembrance. I know we've got flags out and things like that. So the other thing I've been wanting to talk about for a few weeks, and I just keep forgetting to to talk about it because I guess I don't make myself many notes, is that all of these shows are recorded and played back on a YouTube channel that I have. And so if you haven't listened long, or if you've only caught a few episodes, or you just have been so changed by what we've talked about on here, that you think, oh, I need to listen to a few more, or I fell asleep during this one and maybe I should listen to it again. You can go to YouTube channel and check out all of the shows that we've done since the beginning. So really the easiest way is to just do a YouTube search for the health of it, Scott Phillips, and look for a video that has the KTMP logo on it. So obviously we don't videotape these because that would mean I'd have to do my hair and shave and all that kind of thing. So so we don't videotape them, but the YouTube channel was the easiest way for me to do it, and so it is on there, and they're all on there. So if you just go to YouTube and Google, I guess you're not going to Google on YouTube, but go to YouTube and search out Scott Phillips for the health of it. You should be able to find all these episodes. So and feel free to make comments and I've noticed that the last little while a few more people have been listening to them, and so hopefully they're joining us live also. So feel free to do that, and then also, of course, on my Facebook page, we do post these every week. I try to get them out on Friday. Sometimes it takes me till Monday, depending on how busy I am, I guess, depending on how hard I want to work. So check those out, and if you have any comments or if you have any ideas for shows too, feel free to hit me up and let me know. Let's talk about the other thing today, and just kind of going along what the show's going to be. I'm alone here in the studio, and if I had a little thing that played crickets chirping, I would play that right now. I had a few things lined up that we wanted to do today, and a couple of them fell through, and I was out of town, and so I thought, you know what, I can fly solo for the day. I've got some things on my mind that I've wanted to talk about anyway, and so what that means is, if you've had anything you wanted to ask about, I am going to be taking calls today. I'm interested to see if we get another sales call or another person trying to request a song, but I am going to open up the phone line. So anyone out there that has any questions, I thought that a good way to say it is, if you had any burning questions or questions about something that may be burning, you can give me a call and we can talk about it. Phone number here is 657-1340. That is 657-1340. Area code 435, of course. But feel free to call anytime during the show with any questions about what we're talking about, or anything else, and we'll see how that goes today. So really the guest for today might be someone out there. Let's talk about some events going on. I don't get to talk about the farmers market again today. Hopefully everyone had a great time this last summer. But I will say there is a farmers market that runs in Park City until, I think, October. I know that they run it about as long as possible. And so if you're mad that produce was just getting good and they closed it down on us because it's kind of more of a summer activity, you can head on up to our neighbors to the north, and on Wednesdays, I'm not sure the times exactly. I believe it's in the daytime, probably 10 to 2 or 10 to 3, something like that. Head on up there. They got tons of produce, tons of food. It's a big event. It's up in the Canyons parking lot. So on Wednesday, if you're just missing our farmers market and really want to get out and get some good food from some local farmers, that's a great place to go. And I did want to say again about Day's Market that they have a great local section. And so if you want to go and get some local produce, that's a great option too. Um, Tonight is the night. Tonight is girls' night out. I hope everyone out there, ladies especially, well, ladies only, I guess I should say, are excited for the evening activities starting at 6 o'clock at the hospital, 6 to 9. And go on over. There are mini classes. There are major classes. There's all kinds of good things, tons of vendors. And I shouldn't even say vendors. Really what we're doing, the healthcare community is getting together, and we're just providing information. We've got free screenings and free tests. I myself am going to run a stress evaluation, and again, this will be very appropriate to what we're talking about today. But basically, you come by my booth, I'm going to have a nice big punching bag. I want people to get some of their stress out by hitting the bag. So feel free to come by. You can bring a picture of somebody and tape it on there while you're punching if you'd like. Whatever you want to do, and get some stress out, and we'll talk stress, and that's really what today's show's all about anyway. So 6 o'clock at the hospital, it's free for all you women out there. Come on out. There's going to be food. There's going to be, like I say, classes. The mini classes is a new thing they're doing this year, and we've had people on the show talking about them, but things like a yoga class and a workout class and karate or gymnastics for the kids. Anyway, so you can check out what that schedule is going to be, but all of that's at the South Building, which is where the Fit Stop used to be, where New Life used to be, where there are a few other offices there. So 6 o'clock, come out and check that out. Free door prizes. I'm telling you, it's a great event, and hopefully we get a huge turnout. I'm sure that we will. We talked last couple of weeks ago that September is National Yoga Month. We were going to have someone on from Dance Addictions, and hopefully they'll still be able to come this month and talk a little bit about the health benefits of yoga. But I know that a lot of shops in town are running specials. Dance Addictions is for sure doing a big deal there, so if you want to check them out, again, they're over there kind of where Daughters of Utah Pioneers Museum is. They're just kind of in that area across the street from the park there. So go drop in and see what kind of specials they have going. Try some yoga out if you thought, man, that's something that I ought to do. And we're going to talk about yoga today too. But with it being that awareness month, this is a great month to go check some things out. And really, as far as events go, that's kind of all I have. I know that the Dirty Dash is coming here soon. Hopefully there's some people out there that are running that. I have a really hard time getting muddy and wet and dirty when I run in my regular clothes. I think it's a strange thing that I've had since I was young. I wouldn't even run through sprinklers when I was young because I got grass on my legs and I didn't like that. So I have some strange disorder, obviously, that does not allow me to do things like that. But maybe one day I'll do it. I don't know. But if you want to have a laugh, go out and check out these people just getting completely dirty, running around in the mud, and still competing at a high level, which I think is always very impressive. So I believe that's this weekend at Soldier Hollow is around where they do it. So those are all my events that I have for you. We wanted to go to an interesting article somebody posted. This one just came from a friend on Facebook, and I'll tell you, if nothing's been in the news in the last little while, it's definitely that's nutrition related. It's definitely food allergies, and what we're starting to realize is that many more people are being plagued with these food allergies, and so they're a big topic of study, and a lot of people are looking into this and saying, why are we more allergic to food? I obviously have my own ideas that a lot of the food that we eat just isn't food, that our body doesn't really recognize it. But this was an interesting article done, and basically the idea was, let's see, here's our statistic. It says that food allergies have risen about 50% between 1997 and 2007, and we're not really sure why. And so this study came out of the University of Chicago that hopefully is going to offer us maybe even if not a cause, then maybe even a possible cure. And so what they looked at was they took mice, obviously, because these poor mice. Anyway, one day we're going to have to, I think, account for all these tests we've run on mice, but that's a story for a different show, maybe. And they took them all, and basically they gave them peanut allergies, and in order to treat it, they gave them a gut bacteria, the genus Clostridia, and it's a bacteria commonly found in humans. And then after administering this bacterium Clostridia to these mice that were allergic to peanuts, they found that the mice were cured of these food allergies. And so lead immunologist was Dr. Catherine Nagler, and apparently she spent about a decade studying how our bodies develop food allergies, and obviously trying to figure out why we should be even able to eat. In fact, Dr. Nagler says, everything that we eat is a potential foreign material, right? You can't just put something in your body and expect your body to be fine with it. I mean, there are many things in place that say, hey, this is something foreign. We need to get it out of here. We need to treat it like a harmful thing. And so she has studied to say, why can we eat food and not have those reactions all the time? And so what she found out was that this bacteria, Clostridia, has actually been depleted in our guts. And so she says, when I say Clostridia, I'm talking about a big class of bacteria, and so it may include hundreds and maybe even thousands of members. And so you can't really just say, oh, let's put one in there. So basically they say they were able to isolate the Clostridia's unique property of forming spores. And so that's what this bacteria can do. And then once they introduced this bacteria to the mice, then it acted as a barrier, and it kept the allergens in peanut proteins from entering the bloodstream, and so they didn't elicit that allergic reaction. And so she obviously said there's much, much, much more work to be done. That was a quote by her. But it's a good step to see, okay, maybe this is one of those bacteria that we can put in. And I guess my only commentary on this story would be that that's one thing for sure that I always look to asking about kids, especially that have gut issues, is how is their we call that normal flora. That's your bacteria in your small intestine and large intestine. How is that? How is that being treated? Because what you have to realize is, let's say that a child goes on an antibiotic, something very common like a ear infection or just even a strep throat or something like that. They take this antibiotic. Well, I think in our mind we think, oh, okay, here comes this antibiotic and it's going to these bad bacteria and it's punishing them and killing them off and then heading out in a parade of glory. And and that would be really nice if we could isolate it that way, but really we can't. When you take an antibiotic, especially one that we call a broad spectrum like a penicillin or something like that, amoxicillin, these are the very, very common ones that we take, they are designed to kill bacteria, whether disease-causing or not. And so you can take these antibiotics and actually kill off a lot of this good bacteria in your gut. And what the good bacteria does, it helps us break down food, and if nothing else, it takes the place of some of these harmful bacteria. And so when we kill all that off, then we actually really leave us a lot more susceptible to issues such as disease and food allergies. And so a good probiotic supplement is something that I definitely always recommend to someone that's having gut issues. And I will tell you that gut issues is not a child issue. It's not an allergy issue. I think a lot of people out there are really struggling with, is my digestion healthy? And again, this is something that we'll talk about as we get into kind of the bulk of the reason that I'm even on the air today. But digestion is a big, big issue. And if you're not doing something to actively grow that gut flora, which is a very inexpensive, very easy thing to do. Now, your Yoplait yogurt is not going to be sufficient. So I know a lot of you are thinking, oh, I eat my yogurt. The problem is it's just not enough cultures. If you were doing that and some other things, I would say hooray. But if that's all you do and you think, oh, I eat yogurt so I can get my probiotics, you got to do more. There's too much. There's too much bombarding that gut right now to have that have the lasting effect that you want. So when you're looking for a good probiotic supplement, the first thing you want to look for is number of cultures, and you want it to be in the billions, even tens of billions. If you look at one and say, wow, there's a million cultures in here, that's a lot. Well, I'll tell you that when we're talking bacteria and you're talking about those little tiny, tiny cells, billions or tens of billions is what you're looking for. And then have a wide range of different organisms, right? So even in the Clostridium family that they were talking about in this study, or Lactobacillus is a very common one. Acidophilus is one that people just get exclusively, and so I would even warn against that and say make sure that you're getting a good variety of cultures in there. So I look for tens of billions. I look for a variety of cultures. And I actually have kind of migrated a little more to the food sources. And so if you're looking for a good food source of bacteria that's not yogurt, again, like I say, Yoplait, bless them, they are also very sweetened, highly, there's a lot of other stuff in there. And so if you want a good, clean source of probiotics, look no further than your fermented aisle. So things like sauerkraut is a fantastic source. Kefir, some people drink the kefir, which to me is not my favorite, but kombucha, the fermented mushroom drink. And so anyone that's listening and just tuned in right now have no idea what we're talking about. It's a very hippie type of thing to discuss. But if you're looking for food sources of probiotics, really those are the things you want to look for. If you just want to take a supplement, I have no problem with that, but just make sure you find yourself a good one. And if you're just wondering about some of these food allergies in your kiddos, this is a great way to take a look and say, hey, maybe they need something like this, because you can take probiotics from the very beginning. Like I say, there's no harm in growing that normal and healthy gut bacteria, so that if nothing else, it takes all of the place of the disease and harmful bacteria. In fact, it's very interesting that we have disease-forming bacteria. One of the experiments I remember doing in a microbiology lab was swabbing different areas of people's bodies and growing these bacteria and finding some of these really harmful disease-causing bacteria. This is going to make the germaphobes just freak out because they're all over our bodies, but they don't make us sick generally for the most part. And so what happens when they do make us sick a lot of times is that there's room for them to grow. We call that an opportunistic infection, which basically means that because they were just held at bay and not able to grow because everything else around it was growing fine, something happened to knock some of that out, and now there's space and room for the harmful bacteria to grow. And so I would just say, if nothing else, take those probiotics. They're very inexpensive, too, by the way. It's an easy way to build that gut flora. And take those things and for no other reason, just do it because it'll take the place of, it'll just take up space, and you won't have those disease-forming bacteria. And then also, like this study says, it can create a barrier for some of those allergens that come in. So those of you suffering with the peanut allergies, the seafood allergies, I'll tell you, I had a seafood allergy. I was very allergic to fish. I was very allergic to shellfish. And as long as I keep my gut healthy, I'm okay. And that's been a recent development. So now I'm a sushi freak. And so people that find that out about me that knew me when I was allergic just think that's funny and think that I was faking when I was when I was a teenager, which I really wasn't. But it's hard to convince people otherwise. But what I'll say is definitely taking care of the gut in that manner, that simple way of just taking some probiotics, I think will give most people out there that have digestive troubles a noticeable difference. So let's get on to, let's tell a couple of jokes. These are not good, and luckily, I shouldn't preface with that. I Luckily, there's no one in here because I feel like these wouldn't even be laughed at, and so I'll just pretend that people listening right now are going to laugh at them. But really, I can imagine there'll be more eye rolling. So the big breaking news story that I heard was that there was a couple of peanuts just walking through Main Street Park, and these peanuts were walking over, and apparently one was assaulted, which which is really really sad. And anyway, but the other story was that there were two coffee pots, and they were driving down the road, and actually one was texting while driving, and they got in this really terrible wreck, and unfortunately one was decaffeinated. So anyway, let's move on and not even dwell on those. I hope you can even call in and tell me what terrible jokes those were. Again, like I say, please feel free to call if you'd like. 657-1340. We'll answer that phone call. But today I wanted to talk about stress, and I kind of laughed when I put my promotion on Facebook and said, hey, we're going to talk stress today, because who better to talk about stress than someone that's just returning from this wonderful Florida vacation. We were on the beach. We did all kinds of fun things, and so people are thinking, oh, how fun and relaxing and exciting, and what they didn't realize is as I'm typing this promotion last night, I was in the Chicago Midway Airport. We left Orlando about 3 o'clock. Now, again, anyone that has kids knows that traveling with them can be a dangerous thing, especially air travel, because there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to stop. And so here I am with my troop of 4 children under the age of 7. We're getting in the airport. We realize that it's going to be a struggle, but I'll tell you, anything piled on top of that is almost too much to handle. So we flew from Orlando to Chicago, and we're fine. We get to Chicago, and I look up at the board, and our plane's delayed 10 minutes from Chicago to Salt Lake. And I think, okay, well, 10 minutes, not that big of a deal. By the time we got to our next gate, they had moved it from the 10 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. And this was already, we had a 2-hour layover. And so it was about to be an hour and 15 minutes. And then when all was said and done, instead of leaving at 7:25 when we were supposed to, we ended up leaving about 9:25. And so you can imagine 9 o'clock Chicago time is 10 o'clock Orlando time. And that's kind of where my kids were because they had woken up regular time that morning. And boy, were they just hammered. I mean, just done. And we didn't have anywhere to put them to try to sleep because, I mean, it was a crowded airport. People were seated everywhere. And so here we were trying to keep them somewhat occupied while we just passed this time. And I thought, well, I'll just write this promo for my show. And I thought, what are we going to talk about? And I think, man, if there's any time in my life right now or any time in any of my days that I'm feeling stressed, it was right then. And so writing that promo about me being on vacation, it was just kind of funny because anyone out there that's been on any type of vacation with these age of kids realize when they get home they need the real vacation, right? The vacation for the kids then when they get home, parents are like, hey, vacation for us. In fact, we weren't sure if we got in finally to Salt Lake about midnight, finally got to the house about 1:30 this morning, and we didn't think the kids would go to school, which was fine because it was so late when we got home. But when they woke up at 8 this morning, we thought, man, we are sending them out the door because my wife needs a break today. So luckily their teachers won't be listening right now, but I would just want to issue an apology to them that if they're a little off today, that's the reason. But man, I'll tell you, it'll be good for mom to not have them around the house for the next few hours. So this was kind of my mindset in writing this and talking about stress. I just feel like we are so stressed, and we really don't notice those health implications that we have from it. Because what can we do, right? There's nothing I can do there in that situation except just let things unfold. I mean, and so I think it's important as a healthcare provider that I let people know what my philosophy is on health. And I think if you don't know your healthcare provider's philosophies on health, I think that's a great conversation to have with them in your next visit, including your dentists. Why did you get involved in this? That's why I have this show, is I want to ask people why they're passionate about what they are doing, what they're doing, because if they just wanted to make some money, if they just thought it'd be a good profession because, dad did it or whatever, if they don't have this drive to help you optimize your health in all areas of your health, then I don't know if they're the best practitioner for you to use, because I feel like you want someone fighting for you as much as they would fight for their own health or their own children's health. And so my philosophy on health is very, very simple. And that is that if we become less stressed and if our body becomes more able to deal with our stress in a more effective and efficient manner, that we will be healthier. So no matter where you are in your health right now, if you want to get healthier, the easiest way for me, and the way that we don't look at as much, is to first of all either decrease the stress that you're putting on your body or increase your body's ability to deal with that stress. And so that's my healthcare philosophy. And so everything that I do in my office has exactly that in mind. And so someone comes in, what I want to do is I want to evaluate their stress, evaluate what it's doing to their body, evaluate why that is giving them the symptom that they're showing up for, and then not just offer them a procedure that can help the symptom, but talk to them about how to really get to the root cause and how to change the stress on that body. We didn't do a medical fact today on purpose because the one that I want to give, in fact, there's two, have come out in the most recently about stress. And the first one is that the National Institutes of Health got together, and this is a government organization, and they said up to 90% of disease can be caused by stress. And I know I've quoted that in here before, and I'll quote it in here again. It is a glaring statistic. It is one that I think is very important as far as moving our health forward. But here we are talking about 90% of disease being caused by stress. 90% of our conditions that are not healthy are caused by stress. And whenever I say that, I've never had anyone say, "Oh, I don't know if that's true." That seems high. To me that seems high. But as we look at what stress does to our body, how it changes our physiology, it's very easy to say, okay, this is why. And but like I say, everybody that I've told that statistic to has said, yeah, you know what, I believe that. Because really and truly, we realize that we're at the least healthiest when we're the most stressed. When we really feel that stress, I think about finals in college or in chiropractic school. I think about, when the kids are the craziest, that's when I feel the least healthy, when I'm not eating the best. We'll talk about that and how that contributes to our stress. And so here we are, living this crazy life. We're constantly barraged by technology and information, and we've got our phones close to us at all times. And we're always connected, and there's just never enough time for us to wind down, and so our bodies are constantly under stress. And so if the National Institutes of Health feels that 90% of disease is caused by stress, then when we are trying to make ourselves healthier, if we want an A in health, right, 90%, if we want an A in health, we need to be dealing with that stress, guys. And there's not a better way to put it, and there's not a simpler way to put it. But if day by day you're not doing something actively to help yourself with your stress, then you are just asking your body to do something that it can't do, and that is to remain healthy and remain optimal under conditions that are not optimal. And so what we're going to talk about today is the easiest things that you can do, the simplest things, right? Because again, we've heard, our doctors told us, oh, you got too much stress, but that can be stressful in and of itself, right? When someone says you got to reduce your stress, like, great, well, thank you. It's not like there's all these stressful things that I'm like, oh, you know what, I can just do away with those. Those are self-inflicted things, it's just not possible. I think usually when I say stress, most people think about the emotional stuff like the mortgage payment, the job, the boss, the kids, and there's really nothing that we can do there. Am I right? I mean, we just kind of think, oh, if I can just get through this week, if the kids can just get a good night's sleep tonight, right? There's always this ending, right? If I can just do this, then all of a sudden the stress will decrease, and really that never ends up happening. I mean, the truth of it is that external stuff that we can't do anything about, I'm going to give you a free pass for it. I'm going to say don't try to do anything about it, because all that's going to do is stress you out more. And so what we'll talk about in here today is how not just to decrease the stresses that you're voluntarily putting on yourself, but then also increase your body's ability to deal with that stress. And that's another issue, that once the body gets in this pattern of being stressed and being stressed out, it has a hard time backing off from that. So we're going to talk about that also. But let's talk about the three areas that we need to focus on. Because again, I talk about emotional, and when we say stress, most people think about that. It's the ornery husband that doesn't listen to us and doesn't help around the house. It's the kids that just won't obey, right? It's the boss that's really riding you. You know, it's the mortgage payment that who knows where it's going to come from this month. Those are those stresses that I think we automatically go to. And again, most of the time, they're stresses that we can't change, that we can't really do anything about. And so it's too stressful to think about them because there's nothing we can do, so we just kind of shut it off. So let's talk about some stresses that we actually put on ourselves. And so if you're not ready to hear about them, then I would say plug your ears now or turn off the radio, because it may not make you happy, because there are some things definitely you can do. So that's the emotional side of things. But let's talk about the physical side of stress. Physical stress is something that is a little bit easier to understand if we just talk about a car wreck. When you get in a car wreck, have you seen some of these slow motion videos of these car wrecks, right? I think there was an insurance company that played some of these commercials a little while ago. And it was this time delayed, not time delayed, that's fast motion. Slow motion, someone get hit and you see the body moving in ways that it shouldn't, right? I mean, or you think about a kid falling off a trampoline. I deal with this all the time. I think trampolines were actually invented by chiropractors, maybe. If nothing else, I think I should probably buy stock in the trampoline company just because they've given me so much business. But you think about some of these weird ways that kids can fall, or these car wrecks that happen, and we think at the end of it happening, we check for blood, we check for bones poking out, and as long as we feel pretty good, then we think, oh, phew, we dodged a bullet. But if you watch that take place, you think, okay, something not right has taken place. Something is going on with the body, and that's a big-time physical stress. We call that a trauma. But physical stress can come from more than just a big-time event like falling off a trampoline or a car wreck. Physical stress can be something as long-term as sitting at a desk all day, every day, right? 5 days a week. How many of you out there sit and work at the computer even for a few hours every single day? That posture right there, doing it all the time, can be a physical stress on the body. It's not ideal posture. A musician that practices for 4 hours a day, my sisters were all violinists, still are. And they play, and they have a crazy posture that they have to take to enable the practice, and they do that for 3-4 hours a day. That is a physical stress. You think about a marathon runner. They are just pounding those joints day in and day out, and that is a physical stress. Anyone that works out, that's a physical stress on your body. You think, well, I work out to stay healthy. Well, yes, but the whole idea behind pushing your body through maybe more than it wants to is a physical stress on the body. And then chemical stress is the third aspect. And so chemical stress is another. And again, we'll get back to physical stress where I say, I'm not telling you not to work out. That's not one of those volunteer. In fact, working out for me is one of the biggest stress relievers that I know. That's why I'm going to have that punching bag tonight, so that those of you who punching that bag may be a physical stress, but the emotional release you get from it will probably outweigh that. Chemical stress, I think, is one of our most voluntary stresses. And there are so many people out there that don't equate what they eat with how they feel, that it's hopefully something that I've hashed on this show enough that we're starting to even say, okay, we get it. But I know that so many people really don't put that equation together, that, hey, when I eat something bad and then feel bad later, it's because of what I ate. It's not because of, people say, oh, I get a headache every night. Okay, well, do you think it's because the day is long because at 7 o'clock your head says, "Hey, I'm going to hurt," or maybe there's something that you're eating beforehand that makes that headache happen. Or, "Hey, I can't sleep." Okay, well, what are you eating before you try to sleep? And those types of things. And so not a lot of people look at that as a potential problem to the health issues that they have. And so what I'll say about chemical stress is it's really just that. Chemicals that come into your body are very, very foreign, and your body does not know what to do with it. In fact, the easiest way to decrease calorie content in a food is to increase chemicals and fillers and additives and things like that. And so what you get is less food, right? Calorie is food. When you eat calories, if it's 300 calories, you're getting 300 calories of food. If it used to be a 500-calorie food and it's decreased to 300 calories, then there's 200 calories there that have been made into something else that's not food, and so you're eating these chemicals. And so what happens is when your body comes in contact with many of these chemicals, it is thrown into this stress response, much like anything emotional that you come across. And so I talk to a lot of people and say, "Oh, I don't have any stress, man. I'm retired. My house is paid off. My kids are all doing great. But why do I hurt still, or why do I have these symptoms?" And so hopefully the first thing that I can get people to start to think about today has more to do with where if your stress is emotional or not, and more about that there are other areas that stress comes in. And to be able to start to really look at so those three areas, and we call that the triad of health, again, chemical, emotional, and physical. Or the easiest way that I learned in chiropractic school to remember these things are the 3 T's that cause stress in our body. And it's trauma, toxins, and thoughts. And the thoughts, the emotional side, the toxins, the chemical side, and the trauma, the physical side. If we're not looking into each of these areas as far as our own stress response and doing something actively each day to help ourselves with it, then we are not going to get the type of health that we want. And that's a very simple thing to say, but I promise you that if we start to talk about these little things that we can do that just don't take much time every day, if we start to do those and make these part of our routine and become stress fighters, and become people that learn how to help their body relax more and fight that stress, you'll be amazed at how much healthier you become. And so in the chemical side, we talked about the probiotics, and this really just goes hand in hand with that article, is those probiotics are there to help us. They're there to decrease that chemical stress. And so that's one easy thing you can do. I talk about the 5 ingredients to avoid, and we did a whole show on it, my first show. And so if you want more specifics on those things, go to the YouTube channel and listen to that show. But I'll run through them really quickly and tell you just a little bit about them. The first is high fructose corn syrup. Hopefully some of you remember those commercials that came out a little while ago that said, hey, it's the same as sugar. It made the people that were against high fructose corn syrup kind of look silly, right? I remember the guy that was sitting on the blanket with the girl, and she pulled out some popsicles, and he said, "Oh, I hope they don't have high fructose corn syrup." And she said, "Well, why not?" And then he didn't have an answer, and then he looked kind of like an idiot. And if you notice, those commercials aren't on anymore because they're actually involved in a lawsuit with the sugar company because they found that those claims that they were making on the commercials were not true. And so if you avoided one ingredient in your life that creates a stress response in your body, high fructose corn syrup is the one that I would choose. And if you're looking for it in the grocery store, you will be amazed at where you find it. And probably many of you are already on that kick and have already seen that. And I will tell you that many companies are getting the word about this because I've seen so many of them change from the high fructose corn syrup sweetening to the sugar, which again, we are an over-sugared community or country, and we just eat way too much. And when I had Cassie on a couple of weeks ago, she talked about the sugar being something that we just get out of our diet. And I'll tell you, if you are at that point, I would go for it. I am not at that point. Most people that are just trying to change and want to say, okay, I'm going to go off sugar, have a really hard time doing that. It's something that we're
really addicted to in all actuality. And so, really, high fructose corn syrup is one that if you can get that out, um, you'll do yourself a big favor. And the second one that I always talk about is the hydrogenated oils. When those are in the diet, you get trans fat. American Dietary Association said there's no safe level of trans fat in your diet. You got to get it out. Now, the places that it sneak in, we say, oh, good, I don't use hydrogenated oils. I make sure all my ingredients are clean. But I've heard butter's not good for you, so I'm going to use margarine. Well, margarine is a big stick of trans fat. That's what it was made for. You've heard the butter and margarine debate. It's over. Butter wins. Margarine is trash. Please don't buy it. Use the butter. I promise you. In the long run, it's going to be a lot better for you. And then shortening is the other one that we use. And if you love your shortening, switch it out with coconut oil. And I promise already, you'll do a big service for your own health. Third thing is monosodium glutamate, or MSG. This is one that many people are allergic to. You've heard it before. Again, it's been in the news. Companies, again, are coming around here and trying not to use it. But it's definitely one that causes an allergic response, things like headaches. I've even heard of people with restless leg syndrome and those types of things having that go away with keeping MSG out of their diet. So look for that. Most of your flavored stuff, things like ranch chips and stuff like that. In fact, ranch dressing is one of the biggest culprits of MSG, and it's very hard to find dressings that don't have them. Have it in there if you like your ranch dressing, so look for that. Fourth one is artificial sweeteners. Too much research coming out saying that they're just doing us no good. That they're actually excitotoxins. They're causing a lot of these chronic illnesses, especially things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and stuff like that. So just stay away from it. Most people love their diet soda. We've talked about that on this show so many times, but just drink the real stuff. I promise you, you're not going to gain weight because people that drink diet soda are typically more overweight than people that don't. But if you can get rid of the soda altogether, I'll tell you that it is one of the best decisions you could ever make. And then food coloring, especially for the kids, that's the fifth ingredient that I just really don't like. Again, allergic hyperactivity. The studies that I've seen coming out have less to do with sugar in foods making kids hyperactive and more to do with the high doses of food coloring that we're getting. So those are the 5 ingredients. Again, really quickly, as far as chemical stress, it being the one that I think voluntarily we put ourselves through the most. Just eat more real food, guys. Fruits and vegetables, I'm telling you, that is the way to go. I've read all these books. I've seen all these documentaries, and I love them. But I will tell you, at the end of every single one, the main idea is we got to eat more produce. Farmers markets, let's get out there to Park City. Hopefully you got some produce here in Heber. Let's go to Days and buy some of that local stuff. Just buy more fruits and vegetables. Get the kids involved. Have them come and say, hey, I've never seen that vegetable before. What can we do with it? And just make sure that that's a big part of your day. The government recommends that we eat 4 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. Anti-cancer institutes like the Cancer Institutes of America, or anywhere that you would check in, actually will put people on a diet with 9 to 11 servings of fruits and vegetables. Usually there's some smoothie involved, which makes it easier to get some of these servings. But what I decided is that 9 to 11 servings is anti-cancer. That's probably not a bad idea to shoot for. And so 4 to 5 is your bare minimum, but if you want health benefits, I would push it and get to even that 9 to 11 if you can. My philosophy has way more to do with adding good in. I feel like when the body has good ingredients to work with to build our cells, then it's going to use those very first. And so if you're just one that has yo-yoed and that said, I just can't do it, I can't try to go off chocolate one more time, I can't try to stop drinking diet soda one more time, don't try to do any of that. That's a stress on your body, right? Holy cow. You'll never have so many people offering you free cookies and cakes and stuff like that until you try to get off sugar, right? Say, okay, I'm going to go off sugar. It's like the 5 minutes later your neighbor's over said, oh, I made too many cookies. Here's a batch, right? We've all had this happen. And so it can be very stressful because we just look at those cookies and we say, dang it, okay, I'll start tomorrow. And so I would not even mess with the willpower game. I would say, hey, you know what? I know that I need more fruits and vegetables in my diet. I'm just going to start adding it. I'm just going to start eating them, and I'm going to keep eating crap after that, and that's fine. In fact, I would say anytime you sit down to eat something, or anytime you feel like, hey, I need to snack, just get something fresh first, right? Eat an apple, eat a couple of carrot sticks, whatever you like. Again, buy what you like, buy what you're going to eat, because if you don't like broccoli, don't buy it. There's plenty of fruit and vegetables out there for everybody. Uh, but get what you like, and before you eat that, go out to eat for pizza, or before you have that slice of cake that you don't think you should have, or your donuts or whatever, uh, eat that first, and then what I would do is continue eating the way you're eating. I've got a caller coming. I'm going to check and see if it's someone that really wants to talk to us. Hold on real quick. KTMP, you're on the air. Hello? I think I've got all the dials up, right? Well, they've hung up on us. Well, that's what happens, I think. Anyway, let's go ahead and keep talking about, so I call that fresh fiber first. So, again, chemical stress, that's the one I really wanted to harp on today, and obviously I've done it, hopefully beating this dead horse. But if you can change anything that your body is stressed out about, it's the chemical side first. Physical stress, this is another one that voluntarily we do. If you're one that's worked at a computer for a long time, remember those first few days that you sat there, and that 5 hours or 8 hours or however long you sit there in a row turns out to be that long. And you stand up that first day and you just have to stretch, right? You feel this need in your body to get out of that posture, and you're sore and it's not fun. And guess what? A year later, you are used to it. And you don't have that feeling anymore that, oh, I need to stretch back. I will tell you that's not a good feeling. You don't want to get used to that. That's your body adapting to a posture that it now feels is normal. It now feels like, okay, this is what we have to work with, but it is a stress to the body because it's not an efficient posture. And so you think your back hunched over a little bit. You think that head coming forward some. It is taxing some of these muscles. It is making it so that you really don't have the posture that things work most efficiently in. And so I always say the easiest way to evaluate someone's stress in their system is muscle tension. And most people know that because they say, hey, when I get stressed, I feel it here, or this is where I carry my stress. That's a phrase that a lot of people like to use. And it's a real phrase. I'm telling you, those knots that you feel in your back or your neck or wherever, in your legs, whenever you get stressed, that is where you carry and store that stress. And if you don't deal with it, it's just going to sit there and it's going to waste energy and it's going to make you hurt. And so for me, again, if my healthcare philosophy is less stress equals more health, then how do we evaluate people's stress? And for me, that's what it is. Muscle and tissue tension around a joint make it so the joint can't move correctly. When the joint can't move correctly, we don't get the information to the brain that we should. And so we're running at about 60%, 50% sometimes as far as knowing what's going on in their body. And we can do that for a little while and feel okay. But that's when it catches up to us, right? We think, oh, I don't want to get old, or oh, it stinks getting old. But I'll tell you, it's not the age issue. It's that we're letting these things fester and just hang out for a long period of time. And so people call me and say, hey, I get this. I've had this pain. I get it every 6 months, and then it works itself out after a week or so. But now it's not working itself out. I'm telling you, that's happened once this week already, and I just got back in town today. I would say that's a very common occurrence, is someone saying, this is something I used to deal with, but it would go away on its own. Now it doesn't anymore. Now what am I supposed to do because it's not going away? Well, I will tell you that you didn't get a bad dose of it. It's that your body's finally saying, look, you can't just keep doing this. We've got to fix the problem. And so this is usually where we step in and say, hey, it can be a physical stress issue, it can be a postural issue, and those muscles are just fighting for their lives right now, and they're doing things that they're not supposed to do, and that's where this pain is coming from. That's why you can't move your shoulder the way that you used to be able to. And it's not because you're old. It's because your body has just been forced to be in this, to hold this stress for a long, long period of time. So what can you do about physical stress? The easiest things for me is just to move. And I don't mean work out really hard. I've talked about this on here a lot. Is it's not about, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go out and start running tomorrow, even though I've never ran a day in my life. We need to just be more flexible. And so that's where I'll put my plug in for this yoga month. If you've never done yoga before, you should go out and try it. I will tell you that there is nothing that makes you feel more relaxed, more rejuvenated. You walk out of a yoga session and and you just feel like, oh, I've had time to breathe, I've had time to myself. There's a definite stress release that happens. But then there's this flexibility issue. Now, we grew up stretching, right? Oh, I get up and I stretch. Well, the problem is most of our stretching is inadequate. We stretch our hamstrings for 10 seconds 3 times or something, or we'll sit there and stretch for 5 seconds or 10 seconds. We need a longer, prolonged stretch. A 5-second stretch is great if you're about to sprint or do some sort of activity, but your muscle will go back to the resting length that it is programmed to go back to. And so if you want to change that resting length, which is where true stretching, if you're trying to get a therapeutic benefit from it, then you need to hold those stretches. And that's why yoga is such a great thing, is that it forces you into these stretching positions and has you hold them and has you change those intrafusal muscle fibers that make it so that muscle resting length changes. And that's what you really need. So if you do nothing else, just get moving a little bit. Move around. Turn your body. Do some movements. Make sure that your joints are flexible. Move all your joints. There's an activity that I used to do where you tighten all your joints and then kind of relax them. And just feel the movement in them. If you feel anything that's not moving correctly, that's a good thing to get looked at. But that's something easy to do. You can do it 10 minutes, in the morning when you wake up. You can do it 10 minutes before you go to bed. You can do it after 20 minutes of sitting at the computer or an hour of sitting at the computer. Just get moving. And that will big time decrease your physical stress. Um, and then as far as what it is that I do, I mean, that's my exact specialty. In my chiropractic office, that is what I do. Is I help people realize where these tension spots are, where they hold their stress. We get those muscles to release. We get the nerves that tell the muscles that they need to be tense to relax. Right? Again, the brain is fueling this. It's telling the muscles that, hey, you need to be tense because we're storing something here and I can't deal with it right now. And so we get that better information in there to say, hey, you can relax, you can do better, these joints can move correctly. And once joints move better, once that information from the body to the brain and from the brain to the body is more clean, I will tell you that that is when you experience what we call healthcare miracles. That is when the brain finally says, oh, that's what's going on in the body. I can change that. I can fix that. I can heal that. We all know that the brain is a wonderful, wonderful tool in our healing, if not the best thing that we have to heal. There's never been a condition or a disease or anything that's come up that someone hasn't been able to be completely healed from. And that's because the brain has that code ready to go. We just need to make sure that the information coming from the body is clean and the information coming out of the brain is clean. And so if you've ever wondered what a chiropractor can do for you, I'll tell you in my office, that's what I can do, is I can get those joints to free up. I can get those muscles start to relax. And if nothing else, it's a great first step in trying to get yourself healthy. And that's what I tell people is my main concern is to get that stress to reduce. And once your stress reduces, you are automatically healthier. And whether it's because your neck hurts or whether it's because you're depressed or whether it's because any other things, once that stress starts to reduce, then we say, okay, great, now we can do it. And that's along the lines of helping our body be more effective at dealing with the stress. As far as the emotional stress goes, this is the easiest one. This takes the least amount of time because, again, if I've got to do another hour of things every day to decrease my stress, I've already increased it significantly. So 5 minutes, right? Breathing exercises, deep breathing exercises. Guys, if you don't deep breathe in the morning and night, at least 10 of them, so easy to do. Just sit there on your bed before you go to bed and just breathe. Love this microphone that it picks up that breath. Breathe in deep as big as you can. Hold that air in your lungs if you want to for a little bit, and let it all the way out. Really get the diaphragm involved. Get that stomach. We chest breathe because it's so shallow every day. Really deep breathe, and I'll tell you, that will change your life. If you can do that a couple of times a day and make that a constant habit, there's a reason that we say, hey, okay, take a breath and count to 10 when we're feeling overwhelmed. That breath really, really does calm things down. And so that is my number one easiest thing to do for emotional stress is just deep breathe. The second thing is a gratitude journal. And how easy is it at the end of the day to write down 1 to 2 to 3 things that you're grateful for that day? I know whenever I'm in a funk, and I think, man, what could go wrong? What more could go wrong, right? At the airport last night, I'm telling you, I'm thinking, what more could go wrong? And of course, the little voice in my head said, that flight could get canceled, my friend, and then you won't be on the air tomorrow morning. Which that was a stress to me for sure, because I know you guys miss me so much. But I'll tell you, if you can just do these small things, and you say, okay, when it can't get worse, how can it get better? You just start to think of those things that you're grateful for. Okay, well, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that. And all of a sudden that mindset says, well, yeah, okay, there are things that I have. And on a day like today, on September 11th, we can definitely think of things that we're grateful for here in this country. It's easy to talk all the bad and point fingers and wish that things were very different. And heaven knows they can change and be better. But if we want to think of 3 things we're grateful for, even in this country, I think it's very easy to do on a day like today. So anyway, I'm running long, which shouldn't surprise anybody. But I want to just challenge you to take stock of that stress that you have in your life, and not just the emotional stuff. Forget about the stuff you can't deal with or that you can't change, but think about your chemical stress, think about your physical stress, and what are you doing about it day to day? Are you changing anything? Are you breathing? And commit to yourself to say, look, I can take 10 minutes out of my day every day, 5 minutes, and I can do something in each of those areas to help myself, and then celebrate it. When you get those cookies from the neighbor and you say, you know what, I can't eat them today, and they take them to the next door, be happy about it. That's a big win for your chemical stress. And so think of something you can do every single day. And if you're one that just feels like, man, I need somebody to take a look at this, I need somebody to help me, there are vast resources of people that can help you with that. And I will tell you, in my office, it's no different. And I promise that's what I deliver, is when someone comes in, I say, let's decrease that stress. Let's figure out a way that your body can function at optimum level. So I appreciate you taking a listen to me today. Hopefully you didn't mind that I didn't have any more important guests than myself. But I'm glad to be back on the air. Enjoy today. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful one. I'm sad that I'm not in Florida anymore. We had a great time. But it's always nice to come back to the valley. Love the reds that I see on the mountains just looking out this window right here. So go out and do something good for yourself. Be healthy today. And if you do it for no other reason, do it for the health of it.